Haiti borders with the Dominican.
Her name is Serena Buffalino. They call her Mrs. B, and her class always begins with a pledge.
Something local, something global. Haiti.
They're words that carry
Yes.
weight here. Helping yourself means helping others, giving back, here and a world away in Haiti.
And nobody's helping them, except for people like us.
It was through her the class learned of Haiti, of the nearly 1 million orphans, many with no school, no support, no Mrs. B in their lives.
They could not wrap their head around that.
Mrs. B's students are among Toronto's most at risk. Their challenges vary from emotional and behavioral difficulties to learning disabilities. Their trauma so severe they can't function in a regular school setting, and we aren't allowed to show most of their classmates.
For most of the kids, most of society has turned them away. And in this classroom, they're accepted. They're accepted no matter what for who they are.
Take Yolanda. She came here last year so burdened and withdrawn, she would often fall silent, sometimes for days on end. It was, she says, Mrs. B's patience, her quiet encouragement, that saved her.
She actually saves people's lives from dangers.
And perhaps that's why these marginalized kids feel such a kinship with the orphans of Haiti, and why they were moved to act.
And so when Yolanda and Jackie and Patrick said, well, Miss B, we need to build them a school.
Build a school, no easy task. They started out raising money. They sold samosas, washed cars, screened movies, you name it. And in just a few months, this little class raised $20,000. So much, it's not just a one-room schoolhouse they can build, but a full 3-story school. And so Mrs. B set off on a journey she'd dreamed of, up into the dusty mountains above Port-au-Prince to a town called Canaan. It's home to thousands of earthquake refugees who live with no running water, no electricity, and no school, until now. The first step was a temporary school. It's up and running, 53 students already in uniform. The permanent school for 250 is growing from its foundations.
It makes me want to cry because she just makes me feel so awed, and I'm very proud of her.
All of this because of a handful of students back in Canada and Mrs. B, the teacher who believed in them.
These are for you.
At another fundraiser, a special tribute to the students, accepted by someone who, without Mrs. B, might not be here.
They believe in me and I believe in them, and together we not only change our lives, but we change the world around us.
For inspiring great things and seeing the potential in everyone, Serena Buffalino is this week's Everyday Hero.
This is the reason why I do what I do, is because of Yolanda and all the...
Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday. You know, I did a little dance. I get all excited and everything. I just love this show because, you know why I really love the show? Not just because I just come on and be like, good morning and everything, but I love this show because we have so many awesome, amazing experts that come on. It just blows my mind that, you know, this whole week, you know, before I was kind of nervous about going to 5 days, just a little bit, just a tad. And then I met Anary and Laura and other people that have came on and said, you know, Barbara, I kind of want to do a show. I want to be on the show. I want to do my own thing. And I was like, really? And in the back of my mind, I'm like, yes. So I was really happy that a lot of people signed up, you know, to be like the weekly experts or the monthly experts. And, you know, I just wanted to say that Again, if you want to be a guest on the show, please reach out to me. I do have spots available in August beyond. It's nice that it's slowly, it's slowly but surely it's getting booked up a little bit. So that's a good thing. So the days that I have the openings on Thursdays and Fridays, I do have this month. I'm kind of working with the vets, bringing them on, and hopefully you watched the show yesterday. It was phenomenal. I had 5 awesome men and women that served our country. And oh my God, I mean, I was blown away. There was some people, oh, I still recovered 24 years. I'm like, oh my God, that's almost mostly of your life. I mean, think about it. They took most of their life to make sure, you know what, they're putting there to the side and they're serving our country. And I was just like blown away when, you know, I was hearing that and the stories and this, all the wisdom that they had. So please, if you did not watch it, you can see the replay under the Diamond Factor Experience show on the YouTube channel. So before I bring on the queen and her guests, I want to, you know, I always try to do some kind of wisdom, something to think about, you know, just so you can get through the day and the week. So I was looking at, you know, I always have to look at my wonderful book. I keep telling, I know Mary Ellen, I hope people are buying her book because I show this book all the time. Taking Responsibility, Unleashing True Healing. Some wonderful, wonderful, wonderful kind golden nuggets, as I call it, droplets in your life. So this one is talking about allow your self-assurance to shine. When you allow your confidence to speak for it, will free you of the need to prove yourself. If you struggling with a lack of self-confidence, you may become demanding. Through cultivating confidence, you will feel less of a need to be aggressive. Instead, your self-confidence will assist you to feel better about yourself. The better you feel about yourself, the better other people will respond to your ideas, your opinions, and your proposals. Today, let your confidence speak for you. Feel good about yourself. And you know, I'm always talking about it starts here. It starts with loving you, understanding you, respecting you. Because if you don't do that, then people are going to treat you the way that you treat yourself. It's like you're giving them that, okay, well, since I don't like myself, hey, I'm giving you permission to don't like me either. Or I'm giving you permission to say negative things to me. No, no, no. I'm like little old woman. Nah, nah, nah. Don't do that. You are more than a conqueror. You are amazing and awesome. You have to tell yourself that. That's why affirmations are so important. So important. And I always tell people ask me, well, how many times should I do affirmations, Barbara? Should I do it once a day? I said, do it as often as you can until you can say it in your sleep, how amazing you are. So if you got to do it in the morning, afternoon, at night, you have to do affirmations. I do it. To this day, I do affirmations throughout the day. And it's not so much of being like, I think I'm all that. Yeah, you do think you're all that because you have to think that so people know the confidence you have in you. And then you two can work together and then you can help them if they're having some low self-esteem or confidence because you're confident in you. So remember self-assurance, let it shine, let your confidence shine. So today we are going to have a wonderful lady. Her confidence is always shining, shining with the impact hour we have with her. So with that, we are going to go and start the show. Okay, so I am bringing the queen of all queens, the impactor of impactors, influencer of influencers, Miss Anary. Here she comes.
Good morning. Good morning. It is Anary Bellamy, your impact leader, and we are here for another hour on the Hour of Impact show. Thank you so much, Barbara, for those encouraging words in the beginning. I love your quotes and the things that you read, and it always goes in line. I'm telling you guys, I promise. I know at some point you guys are going to be like, okay, listen. They don't have anybody food. They get together and they talk about what's going to be talked about. And Barbara picks what she reads according to what Anary's going to say. But I promise you, it is not that way. It's just synergy and confirmation for me on what it is that you need to hear. So I don't know if you were with us in May. If not, you might want to go back and listen to those shows where we were talking about letting go of the past. We were talking about standing up for yourself. We were talking about your possibilities in life and how you can shine. We were talking about self-esteem and health and survival and making things happen in your life and how to clean up all of those fears and acts of or things that you think is failure and even childhood trauma, all of those things in the inside that has to be cleaned up in order for you to step into whatever impact it is that you're supposed to have on the world, whether it be business, whether it be a nonprofit, whether it be just helping people in your day-to-day lives, whatever that looks like, the process is still the same. So here's what I found. I found that once you get everything cleaned up and you become this new person, you hit this now what moment, right? You hit this moment where you're trying to figure out what in the world am I supposed to do next? And honestly, you become afraid because everything that you were used to, right? All the ways you were used to functioning, all the lives you were used to having, all the baggage you were used to carrying is no longer there. So now you just don't know what to do with yourself next. And I have to say, what happens is fear sets in, okay? It's natural. It happens to everyone. The strongest of the strongest has that moment where they are afraid. So what makes a difference? The difference is when you are afraid and you sit and you don't move, opposed to you being afraid and you still stepping forward. So what is fear? Fear is a natural, powerful, and primitive human emotion. Okay. In other words, everybody has fear. Telling somebody don't be afraid is unrealistic because it's natural, right? It involves a universal biochemical response as well as high individual emotional response. Fear alerts us to the presence of danger or the threat of harm, whether that danger is physical or psychological. Sometimes fear stems from real threats, but it can also originate from imagined dangers. And that's what we want to talk about today. We want to talk about those imagined dangers, the ones that we put in our head and say, if I do this, this will happen or that will happen. And we let all of that happen when we talk ourselves out of things, right? It's like, I can't start a business. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to fail. It's not going to happen. And then to top things off, you have other people in our ears questioning what it is that we want to do and how we want to do it. And that just feeds the fear that we already have, right? It allows us to create new situations and new things that we imagine that would happen become a reality that is just not. So what we want to do is we want to tackle how you really go about fear, how you really address fear. And what I wanted to do is I heard this story one time, and I think it's really befitting for this. And what happened is, I don't know, maybe you've heard this, but there's a man, and he has built his oasis, right? He has built his place of comfort, place that he knows that he wants to be. And all of a sudden, his world is shaken up by his oasis, his home being destroyed. And he needs to move out of his comfort zone to another place. And as he's traveling his journey to figure out what that other place is going to be, a big rock falls in his path. And I mean, this is the rock of all rocks. I'm not talking about a little stone or, something you just move to the side. This was a big boulder that he could do nothing with, right? He couldn't climb over it. He definitely couldn't walk through it. And so he starts to push on this rock, right? And he's pushing and he's pushing and he's pushing and nothing's happening. The rock isn't moving. And he sits down and he gives up. And he's like, well, I guess I'll never get where it was I was meant to go. And he sits there. And as he's sitting there, a voice says to him, why are you sitting? And of course, he has a natural response. He says, well, do you not see this rock? Right? I tried to climb over it. I tried to go around it. I've been pushing and pushing and pushing. This rock isn't going anywhere. So what's the point? I'm stuck. There's nothing else I can do. I'm stuck right here where I am. And the voice says to him, get up and keep pushing. And of course, in his mind, he's like, okay, this is just absolutely ridiculous and pointless, but okay. So he pushes and pushes and pushes some more. And of course, now there's another voice that's saying to him, you're never going to move that rock. This is a total waste of your time. I don't even know why you're doing this. Look at you. This is ridiculous. You're failing. You're not moving the rock, all kind of negative things. And he allows these things to get into his head so much so he stops pushing and he sits again. And the voice comes back and says to him again, why do you sit? Why aren't you pushing the rock? And the man says, well, listen, this rock isn't moving, right? I mean, this is just a total waste of time. It's not happening. The rock isn't moving. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I give up. This has been a total waste of my time. And the voice says, well, was it really? Because your arms are stronger. Your legs are stronger. The first time you quit instantly. This time you pushed a little longer and a little longer and a little longer. And you don't realize just how long you've been pushing, but you've been pushing for a very long time. And the man says, yeah, but what did it get me? I've been pushing all of this time and nothing has come of it. I still haven't moved this rock and I still can't get where it is that I'm trying to go. And the voice says in response, I think you heard me wrong. I never told you to move the rock. I just told you to keep pushing. The same thing happens with fear. Fear causes us to sit, be complacent, be afraid to move forward. But the reality is, we just have to keep pushing. Our job isn't to move all of these obstacles out of our way the way we think that we're supposed to. Our job isn't to have it all figured out, from start to finish. Our job is to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And you will be amazed at how in this journey, all kind of rocks are going to fall in your path. I can't even tell you that they won't, because they will. Some are small enough for you to step over. Some are a little bit bigger. You got to put a little bit more effort into. And then you get these big, huge ones that seem unmovable. But what I found in life is if you don't operate in fear, the fear that you can't conquer, and you keep putting one foot in front of the other, which in this story would be the pushing, then eventually something comes along and moves the rock for you. Something comes along and puts you where you need to be. You meet someone in life that steers you in the right direction. Opportunities fall in your lap that sends you down the path where you're trying to go. And 9 times out of 10, it gets you there a whole lot faster than you could have done on your own. Now, when you have those people in life and they're waiting and they're waiting and they're waiting, they're saying, oh, it's been years. I had a vision. I had a promise. Nothing's working in my favor. It's not happening. Somewhere along the way, they had an opportunity. They had something placed in front of them that they were afraid to act on. And in operating in fear and being afraid to act on that opportunity, being afraid to act on that partnership, being afraid to act on that very thing their gut has been telling them to do year after year, day after day, month after month, they're stuck. They're like that man that sat down and stopped moving the rock. They have sat and given up on the possibility of ever getting where they were trying to go. But had they stayed on their feet, put one foot in front of the other, and kept pushing forward, they would have actually been able to get where they're trying to go a whole lot faster. Now, ask me how I know. I used to be that man, right? I used to be one who would hit opposition, right? I had a vision, something wouldn't go right, and I'd sit and I'd say, okay, you know, it's not going to happen. It wasn't for me. What was I thinking? I can't tell you how many times in business, I had business going good, you know, it was getting where I was trying to go. And then I'd hit a wall and I'd say, this isn't for me. I keep failing at this. This isn't my thing. I don't know what I'm doing. This is a total waste of time for me and my family. And I'd go out and get a job. And I'd work that job and I'd give that job 110% of myself. And they talk about how I was a great worker, and they talk about how, you know, they wanted to hire me, and we go through that whole spiel. And somehow, some way, I could never get from that temporary worker to that hired worker. No matter how much they raved about me, they always ended up sending me home. And I'm like, what in the world is happening? How can I be the best employee that they've ever seen? How can I be on time, get all my work done, perform above and beyond? They put all this training into me and then still send me home. Well, the reality is it just was not the path I was meant to take. I was allowing fear to continue to knock me off the path I was supposed to take. I was allowing the rocks that was falling in my path to divert me in another direction instead of staying on my feet, putting one foot in front of the other, continuing to push. I allowed fear to cost me so many years of success. I allowed fear to cost my family so many things I could have given them so long ago, right? And most importantly, I allowed fear to keep me from showing up for the sake of others. Now, what I mean by that is in my personal world, I had not much fear, right? So I could encourage people all day long. I could speak in church. I could do all of those things with no fear after a while. And what I mean by that is even then I was operating in fear, and I wouldn't say things that was laid on my heart to say, or I wouldn't speak out and say things that needed to be said. And there was so many people that I was leaving unhealed that I was supposed to have helped, right? So I got there faster in conquering fear in my personal world. But in the business world, I was just so afraid that I was unworthy of taking on the partnership, the relationship, the assignment that was laid in front of me. It was like, who, me? I can't possibly do those things. I can't possibly be that person. So I'm speaking from experience when I tell you, once you've cleaned up the inside, then the next thing you do is you have to conquer that fear that rises up on the inside and says, oh my God, what do I do with this new person that I am? I know what my next step is supposed to be, but I'm terrified to take it. And I'll tell you this before we go to our commercial break. If it does not scare you, it's not big enough. If it's something that you can do at a blink of an eye, if it's something that you can do and you're like, okay, no biggie, and you fly right through it, it wasn't big enough. It wasn't what you were meant to do at the caliber you were meant to do it. And that's the other thing we allow fear to do. We psych ourselves out and we say, oh, I'm not afraid. And we take a half a step when we're really supposed to take a whole step. Or to get from A to B, you need to take 5 steps. We take 3 and we're scared to take the other 2. And we never truly get where we're supposed to go. So know this. If you are at a decision in your life, if you're at a place in your business and you are terrified about that next step. You are terrified about saying yes to something. You are terrified about doing what it takes or what your gut is telling you to do. You're in the right place. Now it's up to you to put that one foot in front of the other, work through the fear so that you can find on the other side of that the very thing that you were afraid of is the opposite of what actually is going to happen. And you're allowed to walk into your greatness. You're allowed to walk into who it is that you were meant to be. We're going to talk more about fear, how to conquer it, and how to become the impact leader you were meant to be after this commercial break. All right. Good morning. Good morning. If you're just joining us, we are here with the Hour of Impact. I'm Anary Bellamy, your impact leader, and I have a queen with me that is definitely making impact, and that's Carly Carrington. Did I say it right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Your name is kind of like mine, right? Everybody's like Anary, So I know that feeling. So I try to say names right, right? Thank
Yeah.
you so much for being here with me today. I actually want everyone to know that I actually just connected with Miss Carly on Facebook, right? And
Yeah.
I looked and I was like, oh man, I love what she's doing, right? I've written some children's books, and I know the power of reading and storytelling, and especially in our community and with our children. And so I saw what she was doing, and I read up on it. I was like, I have to have her on the show, right? I have to get her in front of as many people as possible, because when you look at what you're doing, you can tell that she's operating at a place of no fear. And and I'm not going to spoil it, but she's going to be telling you how she's moving forward into operating with even less fear. And I'm super excited to support that. And one way was to have you here on the show. So tell us a little bit about your journey, what you do, and how you got here.
Well, thank you for having me on, first of all. Yes, as you said, I am a children's author and the host of a children's literary series called Read with Carolee. And if any of you remember Reading Rainbow from the past, it's a little like that, but we've kicked it up a notch. And, like you said, in operating out of fear, sometimes we just have to, that's really what we have to do, is just jump right in. I had become sort of the typical suburban housewife. You know, I had my two sons, and I was really just operating out of I grew up in the city, but I've of course have since moved to Northern Virginia, and I'm in the suburbs, and I kind of like rested on my laurels as being okay, well, I'm a mom, you know, I kind of became an introvert, and it, I knew that there was something that was kind of gnawing in me, like, okay, you are meant for more. You are built for more. I am a product of the church. My mother was an associate pastor. I had always been involved in so many different things. And then I kind of became stagnant. So it wasn't until my son actually, he was in kindergarten, and he came home and he told me, of a situation that he had where a friend of his, a classmate, had told him that he should be playing with children of his own skin color. And that was something that didn't sit well with me. I'm from a mixed family, and, you know, I had not had the discussion of race with him. So I decided to, well, I woke up in the middle of the night one night, and I was wrestling with what exactly can I say to my son that will help him to be able to deal with this. So I came up with this children's book, my first children's book, Everyone Just Like Me. And it's about a little boy that, wishes that everyone was the same. And he goes through and sees, the fact that we shouldn't all be the same, and how it would be boring for us to be the same. So I had this book. My mother was a literacy coach as well. She had been an educator for over 30 years. And she said, well, you need to publish this. Well, I said, okay, all right. I I went forward and I was like, okay, yes, all right, I'll take your advice. I'll publish it. And one of the things for me, speaking of operating out of fear, I didn't want to have to go through the rejection of a publishing company, and I've heard the stories of the J.K. Rowlings and, people like that who went and put their story forward and they got rejection. Well, I thought I believed in my story enough, and my mother said, this needs to be something that needs to get out. So I went about it the self-publishing route. And of course, you're going through self-publishing, you need to market your book. And my background is in marketing, but I didn't know how to market myself.
Right.
And I said, I really don't want to have to go out and speak to anybody about this. I became a total introvert and really did not want to really have to go. I was secure in my solitude. So in marketing the book, I decided to reach out to some moms, and a mom friend of mine was also a teacher, and she said, come and do an author visit at my school. And I started going to different author visits and saw how children were reacting to being able to see a real live author that lived in their neighborhood or their county. And I started to get excited about it. I saw, and I thought about it. I said, well, if I am out here, and I was getting a lot of friends coming and telling me, oh, you should hear about this author and that author. And I'm like, I have never heard about any of these authors that live in the same county that I live in. It wasn't that, okay, they just lived in the same state. They were directly in my county. So I decided to start the show, Read with Carolee, to be able to showcase other authors who would be able to come and read their books to children. And I created the platform on YouTube to be able to showcase that. And of course, that was at that time the scariest thing that I've ever done. Like, I'm not just putting myself out there in front of a group of children. I'm now expanding to YouTube. And even though they were just little children, I was so scared going in front of them. But I decided, this is something that was really needed. And, I pushed forward with that. So then here comes the pandemic. And I was actually doing the show live in front of the studio audience of children in a coffee shop here in Northern Virginia. And I had to then now pivot and say, okay, how am I going to do this? Like, I know we could no longer go and do the show at the coffee shop. I could no longer have an audience.
Right.
So I decided Zoom. Zoom was, getting popular. I was using it for work, but I really didn't know exactly how to do it. So that's another thing of fear. I had to go and decide that this was something that I was going to change. And that was what actually changed the trajectory of this entire thing of Read with Carolee. And I've had, a couple evolutions in the past year, but this is now my home studio. Yes. And I put myself out there and I said, authors, wherever you are, connect with me. I've been able to record with authors from Uganda, Australia, from England, just because I said I'm going to not just, I could have just ended it there when the pandemic happened and said, okay, well, you know what, I tried. But I said, no, this is something that is needed. And it had become bigger than me. And now, as you were hinting along,
Hint, hint, yeah.
yeah. And what has become even so much bigger now, I've been doing this for 18 months now. Like I said, we started a little bit before the pandemic. And I've been in my in-home studio since March. Well, yeah, since the end of March of last year. So now we've actually gotten, I guess, perked the ears or, gotten eyes on us. And I've been offered the opportunity to step out of my home studio and do a pilot for a Read with Carolee show, which is definitely what I have always dreamed about not knowing how to execute it,
Right.
not knowing how to go about doing it. And, they say, once you start following your path, once you start following your passion, you just take one step, one foot in front of the other, and the doors will just open. You'll attract the people and the situations that'll put you into the place where you can evolve. Because absolutely, I did not. When I became an author, I did not think that I would have my own YouTube series. I actually, and I'll be very candid right now, before I decided to do the show, a little bit after I'd become an author, but before I decided to do the show, I separated from my husband and decided that, I needed to get a divorce because of different situations that were going on that were basically things that were holding me back and kind of keeping me hostage and stuck into this situation. And once I let go of that, and there's some people that, unfortunately, divorce is a rough thing, and I'm still going through it.
Right.
But I had to release myself from that, and the old me started to be able to come out and started to be able to be a little bit more more of an extrovert. And I love my show. When I started the show, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to showcase authors, but I said, I don't want to just get up there and just, okay, I'm a mom, I'm an author, and even going and doing authors visits to school. So, I came up with the idea of I love tutus. So, I have my t-shirt and my tutu, and I'm going out there, and it's like, no matter what is going on, I put on my tutu and I come to life.
Right.
And even going into this new season of trying to do this television series for children, we're actually going into by midsummer, we'll be shooting the pilot. And of course, that takes money. And another fearful thing that I've had to do is I'm not someone that can easily go and say, well, hey, I'm fundraising for this, or I'm asking you to help me with this. A lot of us have issues or even have fear of asking for help. And I created a Kickstarter, and I would say for the first 15 days, I put I put like maybe one or two posts about it on Facebook and Instagram, but I did nothing. I did nothing else because of the fear of rejection and the fear of kind of, I guess, seeing people for who they are. Because of course, there's some people that they will say, oh yes, I love what you're doing, I support you. And then when you ask for the support, they're like, no.
Right.
So, and how we got to connect with that, I started to reach out to people and say, hey, I'm doing this. This is a big step for me. This is, still a big leap for me. I am just leaping. There's no safety net. I'm asking you to come on and help me with this. And there are people that I expected to say, yes, Carolee, I'm all in. We know that you're going to do this. And I got crickets from them. But then there were people that I didn't expect that, just said, okay. And we're still a ways out. I'm about 29 days out from the end of the Kickstarter right now. And we're only 24% funded. But I'm just like, you know what? I still have to go ahead. I'm not going to wait until the Kickstarter ends to lay the foundation and lay the plans. But I'm having faith enough that we will actually reach our goal. And, even being on this show and speaking about this now is a way that, the path is still going. I'm still going one foot in front of the other and sharing my passion and sharing what I intend to do. One of the things that I am actually seeing a trend of, because I have a 9 and a 6-year-old, so I can see the trends in children's programming. And there really aren't any children's programmings that are available right now that are teaching children about or introducing children to new books.
Right.
And, part of my passion is diversity in children's literature, because of course we have, the Dr. Seuss's and the Stan and Jen Berenstain, and the writer of The Hungry Caterpillar. He just passed away at, I believe he was 92 or 94 years old. Beverly Cleary just passed away. She was 103 years old. And these are books that are still being put forward in front of our children. And we need to understand they were written at a different time.
Right.
A different time of when there was oppression and segregation. So though it may seem okay, some of the rhetoric and some of the language and some stereotypes that may be implanted in these books, and not saying that these authors were being malicious. It was just the times that they were living in. I was, and I'm actually giving a keynote speech for Reading is Fundamental of Northern Virginia this week. And one of the things that I started to look back on is, the Disney movies and the books and what, some of my favorite stories, like The Hunchback of Notre Dame. That is a story that, yes, it has a happy ending, but it really kind of spoke about people with disabilities in not such a good way that we would want to present to our children now.
Right.
So I've had people on my show that speak about children with disabilities and making, or not even disabilities. I don't even like that word. It's I like to say varying abilities, because someone that may have be diagnosed with autism, they just learn differently. Or someone that may, not be able to walk, maybe in a wheelchair. In the past, we looked at it as an issue, but we're seeing so many people that have pushed beyond their circumstance, and they are able to really rise above it. And if we keep on having books that, tell them, okay, yeah, you have a disability and you can't do this and you can't do that, that's going to keep them there if they keep reading that. But if they have something of encouragement and, children who are able to understand, because they have a children's book that says, oh, this person, they may learn differently from me, they may act differently from me, they may look differently from me, but it's okay. Then we have a brighter future for our children, and we have, more understanding and more of inclusion instead of a division. And, that's really, many of my passions in a nutshell, but all, focusing around children's literature. And this is why I'm, going forward with this show and making sure that we are making, like they said, readers are leaders, but if they're not reading the right things, then how can they lead?
I love it. I absolutely love it. So before we go, you definitely have to, one, tell them where they can find out more information about you, where they can find your Kickstarter. We want it all.
Yes. Okay. Well, you can go to readwithcarolee.com. And you can see my name on the screen, how it's spelled, Caryllee. And you can get connected to my YouTube. A lot of my Kickstarter information is on either my Facebook or my Instagram. Connect with me on Instagram. It's in the link in my bio. You can connect through everything from readwithcarolee.com, and you can find my books, Everyone Just Like Me and Pretty Hair. And they're all about embracing differences and, trying to make sure that our children are respectful and understanding of their differences as well as the differences of others.
I absolutely love it. And I'm so glad that we connected. I saw what you were doing and fell in love with it instantly, because it pulls on my heartstrings. I remember, my kids, it's amazing how they're spaced, right? So I have a 22-year-old, a 16-year-old, and then a 12-year-old.
Okay.
And so the 2-year-old is talking about reading Rainbow, Between the Lions, and
yes, I
all
love
of those things. And of course, the 12-year-old is like, what? Never heard of those things, because those they aren't available anymore. So you're right. It's amazing how things have changed in such a short period of time. We're talking 10 years, you know.
Yes.
So we really, really appreciate people like you who have embraced who you are meant to be. And it's amazing how, I don't know backstage if you could hear what I was saying, but I had just said to them, put one foot in front of the other.
Uh-huh.
And things will fall in place. So that is so important when it comes to fear, is just not being complacent and pushing through that fear. And it just always lands you where you need to be. Because again, I already know that this pilot and everything that comes after that and your new show is going to be awesome because it terrifies you, right?
Yes.
If the idea of doing it terrifies you, then you know you're heading in the right direction. So thank you so much, as Miss Barbara would call you, Queen.
Thank you.
Queen Diamond is what she says, for being with us on today and sharing your journey and what pushing through fear looks like and what can be accomplished. And I'll just say thank you again for being on the show. And it is just a goodbye for now, because I'll definitely be connecting with you and making sure that, you know, I'm glad you're an extrovert now, because I'm getting ready to put you in front of just about very impact what you're trying to do as much as possible.
Thank you.
So we truly appreciate you. This has been your hour of impact. You've met another impactful queen that's out there doing the things that she is meant to do, right? The things that she's purposed to do. And that's what this is all about, is learning how to operate in your purpose and making an impact. This is Anary Bellamy. Until next Tuesday, have a great week. Bye.
Life is so fragile, and we're constantly reminded just how fragile life can be, especially when we or a loved one is told we have cancer. Cancer survivor myself, I can tell you, we still feel very alone in this journey.
There's a study that's been showing that patients who are socially isolated have a worse prognosis, have a worse outcome than patients who are socially interconnected.
Buddies for Life is a non-profit cancer support group for those whose life has been impacted by cancer. We'll match you with the perfect buddy. Humor, hope, heart, and hugs.
Humor, hope, heart, hugs, and a whole lot of love.
We're offering you a free membership, so please sign up today. Share this with your friends and family, and support this community in every way you can. No one should face cancer alone.
I am a Chemo Buddy for life.
We are a Buddies Network.
No one does cancer alone.
Be a buddy.
And we are all here for you as a community of love.
We are Chemo Buddies for life.
And if you've heard 3 words, you have cancer, for yourself or someone else, you belong with us at Chemo Buddies for life.
Healing through connections.
Okay. Wow. All I can say is wow, wow, wow. I know I should think of other words, but wow. The Impact Hour, I always look forward to Tuesday. First of all, Anary, I'm going to have to get on her. And she's probably looking at me right now like, what? What did I do? You keep me in suspense. Every Tuesday, I don't know what's going to happen. But then you know what I'm thinking is the Impact Hour. So what do I expect? You do that on purpose. I know you do. But no, it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing at all. It's a wonderful thing. Because you know what? I like that because it's fresh for me too. So when it's not like, you know, you're telling me beforehand, I'm like, okay, well, we're talking already, so I know what she's going to do. I know how she's going to say certain, you know. But no. She keeps me in suspense. So I'm looking at the show fresh eyes, just like everybody else, and enjoying the show. So, you know, we were talking about self-confidence and Self-esteem, I kind of started with that, saying really just own you and don't let, you have to basically command others to treat you the way you want to be treated. And if you treat yourself and beat yourself up, then I hate to say, like I said, you're welcoming them in to treat you any kind of way. So you want to make sure that, you have that, build that self-esteem. Because sometimes, sometimes you have those days where it's kind of like, I'm really not feeling it. I'm really not feeling it. And then you have other days, it's like, hey, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. Then you got those little middle days saying, well, I'm ready to go, but I'm still just a little bit. It's called being human. And it's called having emotions at times. And we do. So I want to quote something that I found. I've been reading a lot of, I told myself at the beginning of the year that I wanted to read at least 2 books a month. At least 2 books. I know I should be reading more, but I need to start from somewhere. I always tell people start from somewhere. Take the baby steps. Educate that mind. That's what I said. So I am reading. Well, first I read off the little. I just got all these books around me. At first, I always take stuff from this book, as I show you. I love Mary Ellen. I really want people to really look at her book. So that's where I get some of the quotes and some of the aha moments in the morning. And then I'm reading another book by Jamie called Believe It. I don't know if anybody heard. She's awesome. I know Tony Robbins is endorsing her, and she is a wonderful young lady that has been really striving from where she started her business to now she's just out there. And she has a quote for every chapter. She has a quote. So I thought this would be a fitting quote before I end the show today. The greatest risk any of us will take is to be seen as we truly are. The greatest risk any of us will take is to be seen as we truly are. And guess what that quote is from? Cinderella. Cinderella. So, the magic happens within us. You have Walt Disney, you have Marvel that does the superheroes and everything, but you know what? There are superheroes in us every single day. The magic is right here. You just have to believe in it. And you had to take that extra step and that risk to tell yourself, look, I'm going to be me. I have to be me. You can't be anybody else except yourself. When you start being somebody else, then I'm letting you know you're going down the wrong path. You are definitely going wrong. I have to be Barbara. I have to be who I am. Anary has to be Anary. If she wasn't, I'd be so upset because then we wouldn't have this show. We wouldn't have this impact. We wouldn't have this hour. We wouldn't have her talents and her gifts. And that's each and every one of you. Please make sure, take that risk of being who you truly are. Because guess what? No one is phenomenal as you. So with that said, we will see you tomorrow. You know what's tomorrow, Mr. Barry Mixon. He's coming with the gems. He's coming with the value. He's coming with, I think he's doing the last part of Cleopatra. I told him not to tell me about his show anymore either because I want to be like the first one. So everybody just keep me in suspense. It looks like that's what we're going to do. But overall, as I always finish, understand your PPD, your purpose, your passion, and your drive in life. I look at that as your foundation. And I always say, you're going to have some earthquakes. You're going to have some storms. It's going to be hard at times. I'm not going to say it's always easy. If I said that, then I would be living in the world of Walt Disney. It's nice to visit there, but then reality strikes and you have to learn how to deal with that. And that's when you have to deal with yourself and say, I know who I am. I know my passion. The drive in me pushes me through the tube to make sure that I'm being real. And then once you get to that point, guess what? You do the extra, which we always want to do the extra and help others and share your PPD with others so they can learn and they can grow. And we learn together. We learn together. I wouldn't be able to do this show without everybody's PPDs, their purpose, passion, drive, what they do. Because everybody brings some wonderful things to the table. And then you just say, you explode to the next level in your life. So remember that when you're collaborating with somebody, remember that when you're meeting people, what kind of PPD they have, what can fit together so you two can just grow together. That's what it's all about, helping each other, not on your own island. So with that, we will see you. We will see you tomorrow, and right here, tune into the Diamond Factor Experience Show with Barbara Beckley. And you have a wonderful day and take care.